Hello, hello, hello. Me
Hello,
again.
everyone.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the first talk of Indie Jam 2024. It's our fireside keynote. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the big themes of Indie Jam this year is the light in the dark dungeon, right? And so, what is more fitting to kick off our talks than to talk about something that plagues a lot of people in the creative industry, right? Hence the title, Burning On or Burning Out. And with me today, I have Regine Cheam, who is a mental health therapist from Cara. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we jump into questions and all that?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Regine. I'm from Cara or Chara. Both is good.
Oh, okay.
It still makes sense. I am a mental health therapist there. So, yeah, we have a booth set up as well if you guys want to know more information about it after the talk. You can check it out. It's over there. So, yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
I'm
And
honored.
thank you. And just to reintroduce myself, in case you missed my speech earlier, I'm Natalie Tay. I'm the organizer of Indie Jam. And I was joking with my sister that this is probably the first time in uh, 10, 10 years? No, not 10 years, maybe 5 years that I've used my psychology degree.
Ooh, okay. Welcome back a little bit, I guess.
A little bit.
Revisiting, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to jump real quick into it because we are running a couple of minutes behind, right? So I want to talk about burnout and stress, right? For people who don't know what they are, what are they? And are they, how are the two similar or different from each other, like between burnout and stress?
Right. So, okay. Honestly, I don't think any of you are unfamiliar with stress, at least. Especially, okay, I don't know if y'all are weebs like me, but y'all know about JJK and MAPA. You guys have heard how terrible their working culture is and environment is, and they've been sleeping in the offices and stuff. That's stress and burnout. That's the definition of it. Not great feelings. Feelings of anxiety, nervousness. So, for example, deadlines. I mean, even with this project, right? Were there sleepless nights planning this? You know, how did you guys feel going into it? Were you guys aware of how you guys felt? Were you guys taking care of yourselves when you guys were planning this? It's very important, you know? So there are huge differences between stress and burnout, right? It's sort of like there's a spectrum to it. So there's different degrees of stress, and towards the end, extreme of it, that's burnout. You know, you sort of go up and up and up, and then the crash down, that's burnout. Yeah.
Oh, that's worrying.
That's worrying, yep.
So, what are some of the symptoms that I would have to notice to know that I am at that end of the burnout part of the spectrum?
Okay. So the main differences in terms of like symptoms per se, like between stress and burnout is, so when you start out with stress, right? Maybe you feel, like even before the onset of stress, maybe you feel like, oh, okay, very exciting. There's a lot of things to do. You know, you feel motivated. You want to do them. And a little bit of stress is good, right? It's good motivation for you to start moving. And then as things kind of prolong and drag on, you'll start feeling a little bit more anxious, a little bit more nervous. You start overthinking a lot, maybe thinking like, okay, there's a lot to do. You start making plans and you start trying to stick to it, and then you don't stick to it, and then you procrastinate, and then suddenly productivity is decreasing. And things start getting overwhelming, right? But you're still kind of on edge, right? You're on edge. And then all of a sudden, without notice, it goes all crashing down. So instead of feeling on edge, suddenly when you're burnt out, you'll feel more, almost like your mood is almost like dampened. All of a sudden, you don't want to do anything. So when you're stressed, it's like, oh my God, there's so much to do. And then when you're burnt out, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to do anything anymore. I want to self-isolate. I want to just kind of be on my own, and I don't want to talk to anyone. And that doesn't feel that great. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of sounds like your body is sort of forcing you to shut down because you've been through so much stress to that point.
Exactly.
What happens if you have burnout for too long?
Um, ooh. Worst case scenario, you will fall very, very sick, and
Physically?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And if you want like really extreme, right, like touch wood, but like D word, that
Oh,
that
man.
that could happen.
Oh, man.
Because it really affects you physically. So other like more physical symptoms that you can catch, right? If you realize, or if you want to know if you're starting to get really, really stressed or burnt out, are you getting sick more often? How is your sleep quality? Are you like waking up in the middle of the night, or you feel like you can't fall asleep, you can't stay asleep, that sort of stuff. Your appetite, that's also very important. Yeah, so it really messes up your body. So this is like no joke. Like, please, guys, take care of yourselves. I know passions are great. Have your drives and do the things that you love to do. But when you reach stress towards the end and burnout, the things that the things that you like to do, they end up not becoming things that you like to do anymore. So that would feel really bad. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the distinction between something like stress and burnout versus depression or anxiety, right? Is there a clear difference that people can sort of maybe take notice of?
Right.
Because I think when I speak to people about burnout, I think that's the biggest sort of challenge they have, right? Like, am I just burnt out, or could
I
it be
depressed?
something serious?
Right,
Yeah, like
yeah.
something even more serious, like depression or anxiety, right?
Their symptoms overlap a lot, for sure. Like just now when I was describing it, right? Some of it could sound like anxiety, some of it could sound like depression, right? They definitely overlap a lot, but the difference is, with stress and burnout, typically, it's situational, right? So maybe it comes from work or whatever other life stresses, right? But if you remove the stress, so for example, project done, right? Deadline over, right? And if you have enough rest after that, then the stress and burnout should sort itself out. You should start regaining that life in your eyes, that spark again, it should come back. But if you realize that even after the stressor is taken away, you still feel essentially like shit, with the nervousness, or that's anxiety, or depression when you feel like you still want to stay alone, you don't feel like talking to anyone, the passions that you once have, the passions that you love, they're just not back. Creatively, right? One thing is like art block. That's a thing, right? Where you suddenly, maybe for long periods of time, you just feel like your mind is blank and empty, and you want to be creative, but you feel like you can't really put pencil to paper much anymore. And if that prolongs for like weeks, months, until a point where the people around you start realizing that, oh, something's a bit off, then I think that's a good indicator of when you're like, okay, yep, something's off.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. So I do have to ask the golden question, right? I think when it reaches the stage of depression or anxiety, definitely seek help from therapy, seek help from other means, go to Cara.
Yes, please.
Yes. But if, let's say you're still in the burnout stage, is there a long-term solution to burnout? Or is there a solution that when I identify that I'm burned out, that I can immediately take to help sort of bounce myself out of it faster?
Yes, maybe, and no. Yes, in a sense where it takes a lot of conscious effort to want to do it, because TLDR is take a break. That's TLDR, right? But but easier said than done. I understand that if you're in an environment where like you need to earn money, so like, and you need to follow on with the deadlines, there's really like you're sort of trapped almost. That's when it feels the worst. But number one is please be kind to yourself. To be able to be aware, number one, right? Like, okay, something's off. Like maybe if your friends are starting to tell you that, hey, something's off, or you feel it on your own, something's off, right? Please acknowledge it, and not just say like, yep, I'm burnt out, okay, let's keep on going. Not really, but also take some action, You know, if you feel like there are some opportunities in the day where you can take steps to pause, right? So not necessarily take long breaks. If you can't, I understand. But to just pause, right? Breathe. Use the things that you used to know would bring you comfort. You know, watch your favorite anime. Do something, like even like stress balls, anything that would sort of keep your head grounded and leveled. Support systems, very, very important. That's why we talk about like work environment, right? Your colleagues, your coworkers, employees and stuff. That's also very important to seek support from, loved ones, all that. So yeah, it's all just about self-compassion. You know, that's the one ingredient, right? If you can see that something's off and you need to do something about it, first is be kind to yourself. And just ask yourself the question, like, okay, if I have a friend who's struggling, what would I do for them? That same answer, do it for yourself. Yeah.
When you put it that way, it's so simple.
Easier
It's
said than done.
easier said than done
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So it takes conscious effort, that's why, yeah.
So from the perspective of a studio or work environment or any employees or employers or future employers in the room, what can people in those positions of power do to support their employees who are going through stress or burnout?
That's a little tough. I don't know how realistic, you know, things can be, right? But in a sense where I hear a lot about boundaries being crossed a lot in terms of like work and overtime and stuff like that. So I think one thing that they definitely can do is to respect those boundaries. Work time is work time. After hours is after hours, right? I mean, as best as I understand, you know, industry standards and stuff. I don't know.
Especially in the creative industry.
Exactly.
So intense.
Exactly.
Yes.
Especially in the creative industry, right? Like there's no off time. You kind of go home and you still, and especially if like you're a creative person, sometimes the creativity kind of strikes you during odd hours when you're in the shower, when you're on the toilet, you know, and then you kind of just need to put it down somewhere, and then you end up starting to work. Some clear distinction would be good in terms of like leisure, work time. And if it's something creative, like leisure, is this work that I'm doing just for fun or is it for work? There should be some distinction. Yeah.
That's a great point, especially in the games industry, especially as someone who works in games media. What games am I playing for work? What games am I playing for myself, right?
Yeah, exactly. There should be some distinction. And in terms of like what the work, like employers can do to help, it's really to just like create that environment to respect that type of boundary. You know, weekends are weekends, you know, and again, I don't know how realistic that is, but that's ideally, that, yeah.
So I come from a advertising background, which is bad. It's comparable to the games industry, maybe worse, because it's been around, you know, longer.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you raised some really good points of what people can do. Sort of when there isn't a time to take a real like long break, you know. I like the idea of a stress ball. I like taking a break to watch anime.
Yeah.
So, if people do decide to sort of take the next step and decide to seek therapy for their burnout and stress, I just want a little bit of perspective from within the room. You know, what can people who have never been for these sessions expect from those sessions if they start going?
Right. Expect to talk a lot about your inner thoughts, your emotions, your feelings. Expect to be vulnerable, I guess, at your own pace, right? I'm sure whatever therapist that you see, I hope that, you know, they are respectful of your own comfort level and your own pacing. But at some point, expect to be vulnerable with your therapist. And it's a collaborative process, right? Like if you feel like there's something that's uncomfortable, that you're not really ready to dive into, that's definitely something that can be accommodated. But you may learn some more coping skills, emotion regulation skills, and deeper into that, right? When we talk about stress and burnout, we were talking about external factors, like, oh, deadlines are the reason why I get stressed out, like projects and stuff, work environment is the reason why. But what if it's internal factors, right? For example, am I being a perfectionist? Am I being too hard on myself? Do I feel like whatever I draw or do, it's just like not good enough, and then I just keep putting that pressure on myself more and more, and then that stress and that burnout is kind of like on you a little bit, not 100%, but a little bit on you as well, and that's something that can be explored in therapy for sure, right? To sort of understand a little bit about our own internal conflicts, our own internal monologues and stuff. So that would be what someone could expect from therapy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I saw you raise your hand, right? Okay, here you go.
So I have a question. Like, how do you distinguish whether you are relaxing when it's like whether you are actually relaxing because you are burnt out or you are actually procrastinating?
Ooh, that is tough, right? But it's quite difficult to sort of define because it's about your perspective, you know? What are your intentions of relaxing? If it is an allowance to, an acknowledgement that, okay, like I've done a lot or I feel really stressed out, I deserve a break. You know, it's the acknowledgement, right? And the allowance, like you allowed yourself to do that, then take that. Take that win, right? Allow yourself, when you're relaxing, be present, be mindful of that. But if you start feeling like when you're relaxing or when you're trying to rest, you feel anxious. You start overthinking like, oh, I got things to do. Am I just procrastinating? Then that might be something to explore as well. I mean, if you don't want to go to therapy, I think it's important as well to be able to talk to at least a friend or someone to sort of bounce off of, you know. There's no really definition to it. It's just about your perspective on how you feel about it. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Right, thank you.
Do we have anyone else want a second question? Oh, okay. Here you go.
Actually, I don't have any questions, but I would like to share one benefit of playing games. Okay, I myself, I play games every day, every evening, every night before I go to bed.
Excellent.
And
Love that.
but my favorite game may not be yours. I love Clash of Clans.
Ooh.
Okay, and then you see, doctors say I have high blood pressure and I must take medication. I refuse to take. And I told the doctors, even MSU doctor, that I'm not afraid to die. I look forward to going to heaven. So, but I noticed, you see, I wear this. It tells me my pulse rate. I was told that I can suffer from heart attack. So I observe this. I noticed that when I play games, it goes down. So this is one of the benefits. Thank you.
That's a good way to like self-care, you know? Like similarly, right? Like if you feel like you're stressed and you're burnt out and you kind of just want to play games for the fun of it and it's helpful, you know it's helpful, then great. Awesome. Good for you. Love that.
That is amazing. You are my hero. So, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
Our role model. Oh my goodness.
Amazing, amazing. But yeah, thank you so much. I think that is our time. We do want to stick to schedule for the next talk. I see our speakers there. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
And if y'all want to go and check out what Cara has in store, they have a booth there. They're only here until 3 p.m. today. So if you want to go and speak to them, go soon. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to get connected to them, just feel free to reach out via me or via my team as well, and we'll be happy to connect to you because I do think mental health is important, and I'm really happy that you're here to talk to me about this and
No
also
problem.
help me like pull out my dusty psychology degree.
Yep,
Thank
for
you.
sure. No worries at all. I'm really glad to have this talk. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.